Hey, Lindsay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a while since we've talked about email. It's important. It's an important part, and especially for those of you who do SEO, like having a good email strategy is going to really complement your SEO strategy. So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Sounds great. Yes, if you are looking for someone who loves to talk about email, that is me. My name is Lindsay Hope, and I have a copywriting business for email strategy and copy, Lindsay Hope Creative. And I've been focusing on primarily just email for about 3 years. I started my business about 4 years ago, but I decided to niche down to something that I was really passionate about, where I felt like I could really help people. That was a little bit more than just copywriting, and I fell in love with email. So I'm really excited to talk to you today and share what I know about evergreen funnels and how to use email as part of it.
Yeah, I feel like email is one of those areas of business that I personally forget how magical and important it is. Like we're all so just many times distracted with just other shiny things, and email can sometimes feel so simple of like we're just landing in someone's inbox, right? But when you start to look at, well, I try and look at my analytics, right? And I see, wow, people are opening, people are converting with emails. And then using it as an evergreen setup, which we're going to talk about in this episode, can be just so powerful. And you're literally able to talk to people, in that it feels like you're really talking to someone like one to one, right? In many cases.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so much more personal when you're, posting on social media. It's like you're one person talking to many, right? But with email, it is that one-to-one. You have the chance to build a relationship and a personal connection in a way that you can't with some of the other platforms. So if you are able to get somebody's email and they allow you to come into their inbox, it's like them opening the door to a friend.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. But it does sometimes feel like email, because it's different than SEO, it's different than social media. It's just you can recreate some of that writing, but because it is more personal, maybe some people feel a little more daunted, right? Because it's like, okay, what do I say to this person, right? Or like, how can I come off personable but then sell, right? So how do you like we're going to get into the evergreen thing in a second, but like how do you coach your clients or with your own, work? How do you think of that about that personal element but also keeping it like professional?
Oh gosh. I mean, but first I was going to say I feel like there should be a 3-to-1 ratio of
Oh,
personal emails that are a little bit more educational, informational, relationship building, three of those to every one sales email. So you're really going to be a lot heavier on providing valuable information. Don't be afraid to give away some of those nuggets of your wisdom for free to people who are on your email list. I think that's one of the number one mistakes I see is that people are scared that they're giving away too much. And you know, uh, it's one of those things where there is a balance of you still want people to buy things from you later, but you have to build that trust and a know and like and trust factor with them through the inbox first. And I feel like email is a little bit more personal than professional. Of course, you want to keep it professional, but email is a chance where you can tell personal stories and you can connect with people on a deeper level. And adding a little bit of personality into your emails just makes them so much more fun to read. Nobody likes to get the stale, boring emails in their inbox. Anything that's all caps and that's shouting at them. You want to be able to find a way to engage with people
yeah.
and write emails that are fun to read. And that's what I love about email and finding people that value personality driven copy.
Yeah, oh, I love that so much. And it's a good I love this ratio idea because it can almost feel like extremes, like you're either selling a lot or you're, diary writing. It's like no, or like you're yeah, like for me with as an SEO expert, there's so many tips and steps and like tactical things I could share. But yeah, the email is like the space where I also get to open up and do some personal stuff, and I just love getting the email back, right? When someone's like, "Oh, this was helpful," or, "This is happening to me too," or Or even your first hate mail. I mean, that's kind of a milestone in my opinion. It's special. Someone took the time to actually reply to me. I mean, wow, thank you.
Hey, thanks for boosting my deliverability because you're
Exactly.
replying to my email. You gotta take it with a
Exactly.
grain of salt.
It's not the same on social media where it's like maybe you feel sometimes, yeah, I could feel, I mean, I guess you could get hate comments too, but yeah, it's I like that ratio idea. Okay, so let's talk about evergreen funnels. So I personally have been working on my own evergreen funnel for my SEO course. So selfishly talking about this will help me. But here are some of the things like I'm struggling with is I feel like with an evergreen funnel, there's like this secret formula, or a part of me thinks that, right? And then I'm realizing evergreen funnels are just a sequence of emails that get sent at a specific time. Like that's all it is. So tell me about like from your perspective and like working with your clients, some kind of elements that you think are really important when you're building an evergreen funnel to sell a course or an offer or whatever.
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things is that starting off, if you have never sold funnels before and you're launching a brand new product, it might be a good idea not to sell it as an evergreen funnel. You might want to try a live launch first, just because you want to make sure that you have the right messaging, you're targeting the right audience. Give it a little test run with a live launch before you decide to turn it evergreen.
Right.
Um, and you want to make sure that you are finding the right people and you're meeting them at the right stage of awareness. So I know that you've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you're meeting someone in a brand new relationship and they're landing on one of your landing pages and they don't know anything about you, are they going to be the most likely people to buy from you? And what stages do you need to take them through in your sequence of emails, which is probably going to be 5 or 7 different emails, so that they get to know you well enough to want to give you their credit card number? So
Right.
moving them from like an unaware audience or a pain aware audience to a solution aware audience, and then they become product aware, so they know that your product is going to solve their problem. And then when they finally buy, they're at the most aware stage where they've decided that your product is going to be the one, your product or service, that's going to be the best solution to their problem. So the way that you do that is through a series of emails. And in the first couple of emails, you're probably not going to do so much selling. You're going to do more education. You're going to do some of that relationship building, providing
Right.
them value, giving them a peek behind the curtain of what it's like, what your product's going to be like. So I know a lot of times people will drip out maybe one little tidbit of a module if they're doing a video modules for one of their courses. Like, show people what your videos look like, and don't be
Right.
afraid to give away that first module for free. Kind of what I was saying before. You don't have to hold your cards so close to your chest.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. And so in that first one, that first stage, you're giving information. And then again, I feel like with a lot of evergreen funnels, the timing aspect is interesting. Like if you could speak to that, like what do you feel? And I'll tell you what I've been playing with, but um I feel like a lot of people like do education and then they'll do some like limited time offer. And then they'll keep selling for at least another week or so. Do you feel like that timing part can come right after, just giving them some sort of quick discount or something like that?
Yeah, everybody's different and every business is different. So there's really no blueprint of what's exactly going to work and what's not going to work. So you
Right.
kind of have to test and optimize. So even if you set up your funnel, to be, let's say, a 7-day cycle and you send an email every single day for 7 days, the first 3 or 4 are going to be more educational, value building. And then maybe in the
Mm-hmm.
last 3, you say there's a 72-hour window
Mm-hmm.
to buy with a certain discount,
Right.
just as an example. And if it doesn't work, then maybe you have to go back to the drawing board and think about maybe your sales cycle is a little bit longer. Maybe you want to
Mhm.
drip out emails over the course of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, where you can provide more value in the beginning. And that's where you have to study your metrics. And I know as an SEO person, you're used to looking at which emails are getting opened, which emails are
Yeah.
getting clicked. And it's kind of a constant test and optimize for the first couple weeks, months, rounds of when you're launching your funnel to find out what's working best with your particular audience and what kind of content is most engaging for them and what they are most interested in either downloading or reading from your emails.
Yeah, no, that's a really good reminder. I feel like a lot of people assume like, okay, I'll put it up, I'll set it up and it's going to start working. And then, maybe it'll make some iterations, but it's really like you said, like months of going back and looking and like testing, and looking at those, just different pieces of that puzzle. And even when you do click and find like a good rhythm, there's still like an awareness of like, okay, how many people are we bringing into this? Like, has it improved over time? And there's always, it always requires some sort of maintenance, like, right?
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the back end of a ESP, an email service program for one of my clients, and there was a series of 4 emails, and the people were really opening the first one the most, obviously, and they were dropping off after the third, but they were coming back for the fourth. So I realized that that third email really wasn't providing the right value. People, maybe we needed to tweak the subject line and just see if maybe that was what wasn't working for them.
Right.
Maybe we just needed to remove the email altogether. So it's kind of like looking back and analyzing everything from the subject line to the offer to the body copy of the email, and realizing that you don't have to set it in stone. You can change those things to see what works better next time.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And then so I think I made a mistake. I, I was testing out an evergreen funnel and I sent it to my whole list. And at the time I was like, this is great, valuable. Like, why wouldn't everybody want this? But I realized that sending a more mature subscriber through an evergreen might actually rub them the wrong way because you're sending quite a bit in like a small period of time. Anyway, it's not a big deal. But how do you recommend testing? I guess that's like my lead up to that question of like, I've heard people take a quarter of their list. Like, what happens if you have a smaller list? Like, do you have any best practices around testing the funnels?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is making sure that you have an option to opt out of a
Yeah.
particular funnel near the very top of the email. So
Mhm.
if people aren't interested in hearing about you, about this particular offer that you have, give them the option to opt out, not just in that first email in the funnel, but continue that throughout all of the emails, because if you give them the option to opt out, they're much more likely to still stay on your list, still be
Mhm.
interested in hearing from you, but not click some kind of spam button, not unsubscribe forever.
Yeah.
So that's my first thought is anytime you're sending any type of funnel like that to your entire list, give them the
Mhm.
option to opt out.
Yeah.
Um, I guess when it comes to best practices of how much of your list do you send an evergreen funnel to, I don't know if there is a best practice on those. Um,
No, it's
I
okay. I guess it has to be
maybe you try it
enough.
with,
Like, I feel like you
yeah,
have to send it to enough people. I guess the part of that question that's tricky is like, it depends how big your list is, right? So if you have like less than 100 people or something, then you probably find it like, because if you don't have enough of a data set, then it's like hard to trust the numbers.
yeah, I think that maybe I would segment your list more by who's the most engaged. So if you have a larger list, you might look at who's opened an email within open or clicked or read an email within the last 90 days.
Right.
Since those are probably your warmest leads, that might be who you test sending the funnel
Hmm.
to rather than some of those older subscribers. Or perhaps you make a little bit of a different offer for people who aren't as engaged on your list. That might be the time when you're trying to re-engage them, which might mean a little bit more of a discount if that's what your special is, or you add a special bonus for people who seem to be not opening as many of your emails. Maybe they've become a little bit colder. That's a good way to re-engage them.
Oh,
Um,
I love that. I love that. That's like, yeah, it's really good customization. I mean, I tend to overcomplicate things, but I also feel like having that sensitivity, and like just taking that time, like you said, to look at like who's kind of a colder subscriber. I actually did run like a cold subscribe campaign earlier this year where, and I'm planning on doing this every 6 months of like, if someone hasn't opened an email in like over 3 months, I send them an email saying, hey, like I noticed, or even longer, I think over 6 months. I'm kind of like, hey, if you don't reply or click on this, I'm just gonna send you on your way.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot with the open rate, because you have just a lot of kind of spammy emails or people who just aren't opening your emails anymore, and that's okay.
Well, and as you know, the back end of the Google algorithm, who knows what the real truth is, but if
Mm.
you're sending out emails and you're only having a 20% open rate, the somehow on the back end, that's going to hurt your deliverability. So if you remove some of those
Totally.
cold subscribers, it's going to help your deliverability. I do think that a lot of times, since there is this, it's out there in the world, remove your cold subscribers. I think you have to be really careful, and you want to make sure your list is big enough to do that,
Yeah.
that it is going to do more help than harm. Because, like you mentioned, if you only have 100 or 200 subscribers, is that really the time where you want to remove cold
Right.
people? And if you do remove cold people who are cold subscribers, maybe there's some kind of offer you can use to entice them to bring them back.
Yeah. Well, run them through,
Usually, yeah,
yeah, a funnel and
yeah,
see if they can like come back to life. Warm them up a little.
exactly.
Yeah, speaking of open rates, I guess what so we've got the open rate, we have the click rate. I'd love to hear like what you feel is like the best ideal. I know, again, as a Google Analytics person, it's hard sometimes because it just depends on how big your list is. Usually if you have a bigger list, all the numbers tend to go down just because it's more people. But if you have, yeah, just like some ideals or how you read that for your clients, and then any other metrics that you look at within, even like how you analyze, I guess, how an email is performing overall.
Yeah, for B2B service providers, I think an open rate of 20% is about the benchmark.
Yeah.
But I find that for a lot of people that I work with, their open rates are quite a bit higher,
Yeah.
which is great. And some of them are also small lists. Maybe it's only 500, maybe it's
Hmm.
5,000
Hmm.
subscribers. But if you have a really engaged audience with those open rates, it helps. So one way to make sure that you can raise your open rate is by not sending every single email to all the subscribers on your list, and by sending out targeted emails to smaller segments. Like I was talking about before, sometimes that's people who are more engaged on your list. So people who've opened or clicked an email within 30, 60, 90, 120 days.
Right.
You might send them some more emails than some of the
Mhm.
colder subscribers. There are other ways to segment your list as well. Maybe you could ask them to self-segment in one of your welcome emails. So that's a really great way to, on the back end, create some tags so that, let's say you gave them three options. I'm most interested in mindfulness. I'm most
Mhm.
interested in nutrition. I'm most interested in meditation, just
Mhm.
as an example. And then if they clicked any of those links, then they would receive a tag. So then when you're sending out an email about nutrition, you just send it to the people who clicked that they were interested in nutrition,
Right.
which that's going to give you a gigantic open rate because hopefully those are the people who are the most interested. So when you blend some of those smaller segmented emails in to the emails that you're sending out to your entire list, it boosts your overall deliverability, it boosts your overall open rates, and it tells the back end that you're creating content that people want to read.
Right.
So that's definitely a trick to making sure that your open rates are healthy and high. So I would shoot for 30 to 40% at as a benchmark for open rates. Click rates are also really important because that shows that people are reading your emails and they're interested in what you have to say. So rather than recreating all the content from one of your blogs and repurposing it into an email, give them a link so that they click back to your blog and they land back on your website within the
Right.
email. Or when people reply to your emails, if you ask them a question and you really start engaging with them through the inbox, that even boosts your metrics and your deliverability even more on the back end. So um, it's a really great way to have conversations with people that feel personal in the inbox if you're able to reply to them one on one. And that help, that's something that I would definitely track as replies. Unsubscribes, it is healthy to have people unsubscribing from your list. It's not it's much better than having people mark you as spam, because when
Right.
people start marking your email as spam, then the back end is like, what is this person, what is this business
Mhm.
doing? Why are they emailing me? So
Right.
I usually keep an eye on unsubscribes, but one of the things that is challenging sometimes is if you have a decent sized list and you start getting a lot of unsubscribes and you're not bringing in new people to your email list, and then it feels a little out of balance. So, one of the things that I always recommend to all my clients is, how are you going to keep getting new subscribers? You want to keep your list fresh. You want to be able to bring new people into the mix, because people are going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Um, I was looking at my ConvertKit numbers and I noticed that in ConvertKit, there's like, they're very gentle and nice. I think the word isn't unsubscribed. They say like canceled or something like that. Or like unconfirmed or something.
Yeah,
But then there's another one that's like complained. And I was like, what does that mean? And I think it's the
spam, that is.
scamming thing. Yeah. And I was like, this is interesting. And so it is a little painful sometimes when you're the one writing the email. But if you have a team, I guess for anybody listening, like if you could have someone or Lindsay go through and like look at the emails, like where did they feel like I was spamming them? Was it the timing? Like maybe someone who just got off the welcome sequence and you're just selling them something, or maybe there is a particular email that's kind of triggering that it can be helpful to analyze that and just, yeah, it's just not take it personally. It's just like good data information.
Well, one way to combat some of that perhaps could be to add the double opt-in. So
Yeah.
in ConvertKit, a lot of people have, a single email that goes out. If you sign up for somebody's list, they get another email to confirm that they want to be a subscriber.
Hmm.
In most, this is kind of a debate. In most cases, the double opt-in is highly recommended, because you want to make sure that your subscribers really want to hear from you.
Hmm.
There's another side of the coin, though. If you're in growth mode and you're really trying to grow your list, that double opt-in is a trigger that you can pull if you're trying to get more subscribers. Because I've found in a lot of the back ends of ConvertKit, sometimes people sign up for the list and they don't confirm.
Yeah.
So those are where the unconfirmed subscribers land. And I know in my own, I'm like, I know a lot of these people. I know they meant to subscribe to my list, but somehow that double confirmation in their inbox didn't get clicked, so they didn't end up on my list. So
Totally.
it's kind of a 50-50. People think, some people believe in the double opt-in, some people believe in the single. So it's something that you can test, though. So if you do have the single opt-in and you're getting a lot of spam complaints, that could be why.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's good to just try. Like maybe there's a season where you take it off. I think I have double for mostly everything. But because I also appreciate, yeah, I kind of try to reflect what I appreciate others do with me, right? So if I'm signing up for something, I'm really enthusiastic. I'll sign up, I'll look out for that confirmation email. Now, the only caveat is like, I know I'm a bit more techie and there could be someone who's not expecting that email, or like they're just not thinking about it, right? They don't know. And so you have to also think about, is your audience, how techie are they? Like, how easy are you making it for them? But I also remind myself that if someone does spam me or unconfirm, whatever, leave my world, they can always come back. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's like a relationship. Like maybe I piss them off and, maybe they find me some other place and they come back, and that's okay. Like I'm not, and also, yeah, I've had the hate email, and at first it was devastating. But then I was like, wow, thank you for taking the time to like let me know about that feedback. I mean, you didn't find that useful. Great. But who knows, that person can even come back, right? So you never know. And that's the beauty of, I guess, the internet, is like you just get to keep selling and marketing and growing things and allow people to come and go as they please.
Yep. And, as entrepreneurs, and we have to have thick skin. So sometimes that feedback, it's helpful, but you also kind of have to have a bubble around you and not let it ruin your entire
Totally.
mindset, because hate is going to
Yeah.
hate.
Yeah, some feedback isn't helpful at
Let them
all. It's
go.
just
Yeah.
hateful. Like it's just like,
Oh, yeah.
why did you but it's like, wow, they really, I don't know. The fact that someone replies again helps with all the metrics and the open rate and stuff. But it's just like, okay, like you really had to tell me something, right? But anyway, some people are just
Yeah.
more communicative than others. Yeah. Well, thank you, Lindsay. This is so helpful. Do you have any like either final thoughts or anybody who's okay, so if there's someone out there listening who's like they've got their evergreen funnel, they're feeling kind of flat with it, like what would you recommend they look at first to kind of get it going again and get enthusiastic around it?
Yeah. So when it comes to things that I would look at, like what might be going wrong,
Hmm.
definitely making sure that you're focusing on one offer, and that all of your communication is, one to one, like one
Hmm.
reader, one main idea, one offer, one call to action. You don't want to confuse people. Simple is
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So that's like the first thing I would look at. And then also thinking about that stage of awareness, like I was talking about before. I mean, if people just found you on Instagram, click over into your funnel, and they get the first email from you and you're trying to sell to them, they don't know you. They
Yeah.
don't trust you yet. They want to get some value first before they, have a pitch for whatever your offer is. So, thinking about the stage of awareness where they are and trying to meet them where they're at and realizing that it may take a little bit longer. The sales cycle is going to be a little longer for some people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I think I'm really not one for pushy sales pitches. I think that, remembering that it's a human on the other side of the email.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of AI and robots out there, but like, you don't want to sound like a robot. You don't want to think like a robot. You want to remember that you're selling to a person. And so sometimes it's hard to take that lens off for ourselves in our own business. So getting a second set of eyes on it never hurts. Like what might be off-putting or what might be missing from my subject lines or my body copy or my offer. I mean, just thinking about, you know, are you actually thinking like a human?
Yeah, it seems like simple, but yeah, I do feel like sometimes we're either, and I've done this, like you're just really enthusiastic about selling something or you want to reach your revenue goal, but I always remind myself like what would I say to someone if they were just sitting with me in a coffee shop and we were talking about whatever and I was teaching them like about SEO, I was telling them about SEO. Um how would I want to come off? But then I mean, some emails that are pure sales emails are very helpful, right? Because there's people who are ready to buy and they just want you to give them the link, right? But it's like you said before, there's like a time and place for each of those. And just, yeah, thinking about that other person on the other hand, because then there's like the opposite, right? Where you're wanting to sign up for the offer, but they're not sending the link or they're like teasing it. I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to buy, like, give it to me. That's also really annoying too, right? It's like that's almost worse because it's like I'm
Right. I
ready.
have
I
to
have
sit
my
through
credit
these.
card. I got
I
it.
know
I
I have
went
to
to get
sit
it.
through these 5 emails for 5 days to
Yeah.
wait till I can actually pay. Well, so in that case, if you have something that's a hot offer that you might want to try selling it to, if you tagged the previous buyers for your last product
Right.
in the back of end of, your ESP, those might be the people that you pitch your next product to because they're already interested in what you have to sell. They may not need to get to know, like, and trust you. They already
Right.
do. So that might be where you would test out selling a second product to people who have already been, buyers before.
Oh, I love that. So good. Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Why don't you go ahead and share like where people can hang out with you and get more information about your email services?
um, my website is Lindsay Hope Creative. It's Lindsay Hope Creative. And that's what my Instagram is, Lindsay Hope Creative. You can find me on LinkedIn under Lindsay Hope. And I also dabble in some of the other social medias, but those are my favorites.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I'll make sure to link all that to that in the podcast. And yeah, this was really great, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.